When I returned from my trip, I found my house had burned down. Though Dan was rescued from the second floor, he suffered severe burns all over his body. At the hospital we rushed to, Dan was wrapped in bandages all over his body, lying in bed. As I shed tears, Rachel lashed out at me with harsh words. "You must be secretly thrilled inside, right? You can rebuild the house with insurance, and you're safe and sound." I couldn't believe my ears. Because, compared to everyone else's stylish homes, I thought ours was an embarrassment. "See, it's better off burned down." Rachel's laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. I glared at Rachel's smug profile with all the anger I could muster. "I know you're the one who set the fire. I will never forgive you. Just you wait, I'll make you regret this." I'm Kelly, a 63-year-old housewife. While managing the accounting for the small factory my husband left behind, I lead a busy yet fulfilling life. My son, Dan, lives in the same city with his wife, Rachel, and their daughter, Anna, visiting me during long holidays. Rachel, my daughter-in-law, has been kind to me, especially after losing my husband last year. Dan, who left home after high school in defiance of his father's wishes to take over the factory, seemed to have been job hopping for a while. Rachel, who met Dan at the restaurant where they worked, watched over him warmly. When they decided to get married, I was full of gratitude for her marrying my less-than-perfect eldest son. Anna is a beauty like her mother and mature beyond her 9 years. We have fun baking cookies and chatting whenever she comes to visit on my days off. I intended to keep a good distance with my son's family. That's when Dan, who rarely calls, suggested they move in with me. "It must be lonely on your own, why don't we live together?" "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in living together." "Don't be so stubborn. Having us and Anna around will help you feel less lonely." "I'm not lonely at all." "So, we're moving in with you next month." I said I'm not interested in living together. Despite my refusal, my son's family moved in the following month. Well, living with my cute granddaughter and kind daughter-in-law isn't too bad. But soon, I was shocked to discover Rachel's true nature. "I'm home." As I opened the front door, there stood Rachel, as always, standing imposingly in the entrance. She presented me with a speck of dust she had picked up with her fingertips, accusing me in a shrill voice. There was dust in the corner of the stairs. I rushed to clean before work, so I must have missed some trash. "Then you should wake up earlier. I can't invite my mom's friends over to such a shabby and dirty house." I was infuriated. Then she, a full-time homemaker, should do the cleaning herself. Besides, although the exterior is a 30-year-old wooden 2-story building, we renovated the interior 5 years ago, so there's nothing uncomfortable about living here. "Rachel, I'm working, and just preparing meals for 4 is tough enough. As we agreed when you moved in, I need help with cleaning and laundry." Rachel's eyes narrowed at my words. "Huh? This is your house, so it's only natural that you do everything. Don't blame me just because you can't handle it." I lost the will to argue and fell silent. I thought she was a quiet and lovely lady, but she was completely pretending. The next day, as I was about to open the gate to my home, I felt a strong gaze on my back. Turning around, I saw Camila from the neighborhood, staring at me with an eco bag in hand. After I greeted her, Camila frowned. "People aren't always what they seem. I never thought you'd be the type to bully your daughter-in-law." Camila spoke with a tone of sympathy. "Rachel has been crying and telling everyone how you don't feed her properly, and how she gets scolded if she doesn't keep the house spotless every day, and how disgraceful it is for a daughter-in-law to work, and that you've even stopped her from working." "I haven't said any of those things." Camila looked at my face skeptically. "Well, I believe you, Kelly, but squashing rumors is gonna be tough. It's even reached the neighborhood association president, you know? That explains why lately, the folks I bump into at the supermarket or on the street have been acting all weird around me. The moment we make eye contact, they scurry off, or groups suddenly disband. Probably, this gossip monger, Camila, spread the word for kicks." Watching her leave, I entered my house with a heavy heart. We had agreed before moving in together that utility bills and groceries would be split between our families. Yet, 6 months into living together, my son Dan and his wife Rachel hadn't paid their share of the living expenses. Even when I asked Rachel for payment on Dan's payday, she always had an excuse to stall.
Rachel, I sent you the breakdown of the living expenses a week ago on your cell, didn't I?
Oh, I forgot to withdraw the money. I'll pay later, so could you cover for me in the meantime? And just like that, another month would pass without them paying. After 6 months of this pattern, I finally confronted Dan.
I've been covering for you for half a year now. Dan, have you actually been giving Rachel the money?
Geez, she said she's gonna pay later, so she will. We're rich, so stop being so petty. I couldn't help but retort to my son's grudging reply.
Sure, we have your father's inheritance, and I'm still working, so we could manage without your contribution. But that's not the point. It's about responsibility. If Rachel can't pay, she should at least explain why to me.
What a nagging old lady. What did you just say? Just got back. Anna's voice from coming home from her lessons put a pause to our argument. Dan greeted Anna and went to take a shower, bringing our skirmish to a temporary halt. But the issues didn't end there. Shortly after moving in, Rachel began dressing up and going out on weekend nights, making Anna and me promise to keep it a secret from Dan. On weekends, Dan would be out drinking late with his colleagues, thinking if he got home before Rachel, he wouldn't find out. Honestly, if they have money for that, they should pay their living expenses first. One evening, while peeling potatoes in a gloomy mood after Rachel had left, Anna, washing the potatoes, murmured,
"Mom's not planning to pay for the utilities or groceries, I think."
I stopped peeling.
You heard the conversation with your dad the other day? Yeah, it was audible all the way to the parking lot.
Anna said matter-of-factly. Before moving, I overheard Mom and Dad saying, now that the annoying grandpa is gone, let's push into Grandma's place. If we live with her, we save on our rent, get meals prepared, and have the utilities paid for us. We can enjoy the savings.
Was their plan from the start to make me pay for everything?
Anger slowly rose within me. Do they think of me as some sort of ATM come housemaid? And Mom can't do housework at all. When we were in the house, meals were just pastries or fast food, and she hardly cleaned. The only thing she really did was laundry, so don't expect too much, Grandma.
Got it, Anna dear. Thanks for telling me,
I said with a forced smile and resumed peeling potatoes. To hear such words from my granddaughter, what a pitiful mother I must be. I felt a little sorry for Rachel. On Friday night, unusually cheerful, Rachel struck up a conversation.
Kelly, do you have plans this Saturday?
I quickly thought back. Last month, when I honestly answered a similar question, Rachel got furious.
Trip? If you have that kind of leisure, give Anna some allowance instead.
You're so thoughtless. I didn't want to hear that from someone who doesn't pay their living expenses. So I decided to hide the truth this time.
I plan to relax at home.
Oh, I see.
If you do go out, make sure to tell me.
I have plans too.
Plans?
I felt uneasy. Perhaps I should inform her about the trip afterward. After Rachel left, Anna came over with a bursting smile. Next Saturday, Mom and Dad are gonna take me shopping for clothes. It's been so long since we all went to the mall together, I'm excited. Her innocent smile made me smile too.
That's wonderful. I hope you find some cute clothes.
Yeah, I'll show them to you when we get back. I felt relieved. I've been worried about Anna, who, despite being mature for her age, seemed to lack the joyfulness of childhood. Seeing Anna's joy while shopping with her parents was truly heartwarming. And then came Saturday. After Dan's family left, I too left the house. It was a day trip to a beachside spa. At a wonderful hotel, I enjoyed a lunch filled with seafood delights. I felt all my accumulated stress melt away. Stepping off the train, I made my way home with a light step. As I walked along the night road, I saw a crowd from afar near my house. Beyond them, police cars and fire engines were parked, yellow tape was stretched out, and several firefighters and police officers stood around. Smelling smoke, I realized there had been a fire nearby. I wondered if everyone in the house was safe. As I walked on, lost in thought, Camila stopped me with a surprised look.
Kelly? Weren't you at home?
I went on a trip.
Then, was that Dan who was taken away in an ambulance earlier? Dan went shopping. It seems he came back to get something and got caught in the fire. It was arson.
My heart skipped a beat. Pushing through the crowd to a firefighter, I introduced myself and was led to the front of my house. I was at a loss for words at the sight before me. The traditional two-story house that stood there just this morning was nowhere to be found. All that remained was charred beams, parts of sooty walls, and what used to be furniture, now just debris. Kneeling on the sidewalk, I stared blankly at what was left of my home. A police officer approached me with hesitation.
You were on a trip, right?
Yes.
We'd like to talk to you in more detail tomorrow. Can you give us your contact information?
Without thinking, I gave him my cell phone number.
Your son was involved in the fire, but fortunately, he's conscious. Do you know which hospital?
No. Please tell me. The garage was spared from the fire, so my car was safe. As I looked up the hospital's direction on my cell phone, I received a call from Rachel.
I heard you were seriously injured in the fire. Are you okay?
I was on a trip. There was silence on the other end for a while.
You were home all day today, right?
I decided to go to the spa on a whim. The one taken away was Dan. Camila must have mistaken us. Dan and I have similar hairstyles and hair colors.
Huh? I thought he didn't come back because we were supposed to meet at the station at 4.
He must have gotten the day wrong for the arson.
Huh?
Never mind. Which hospital? I'll bring Anna. Rachel's nonchalant tone, as if she wasn't worried about her husband, felt off to me. Even if we didn't get along, he was her significant son. I rushed to the hospital, explained the situation at the reception, and hurried to the room. Seeing Dan lying on the bed, I couldn't help but tear up. It must have been hot and painful to get caught in a fire. Wrapped in bandages all over, he looked like a mummy. A while later, the doctor appeared and explained the treatment and hospitalization plans. Dan was seriously injured with burns all over his body, but his life was not in danger. He would need skin graft surgery using his own skin and treatment for the scars, requiring about 6 months of hospitalization. Soon after, Rachel and Anna arrived. Anna quickly teared up, stuttering Dad and kneeling beside the bed, sobbing. Next to her, Rachel glared at Dan with a terrible look. Then, suddenly turning to me across the bed, she snapped.
I told you to let me know if your plans changed. Why did you just go off? Do I need your approval to go out? Originally, it was supposed to be you lying there with severe burns. Don't you feel bad for Dan?
Blamed as if I were at fault, I couldn't agree. Then Rachel smirked maliciously. Kelly, didn't you secretly cheer inside? With the insurance money, you can rebuild the house, and you escaped unharmed. Anyway, it's good riddance to that old shack. I couldn't believe my ears. My precious home, filled with memories of my late husband, was reduced to beams and walls by the time I returned. Could she not imagine the shock I experienced? Taken aback, Rachel went on and on.
I mean, everyone else's houses are so stylish, and ours was just an old, shabby house.
Embarrassing, right?
Well, it's better off burning down. Mom, why would you say something so horrible?
Oh, it's the truth, Anna. Moving our stuff to the hotel was the right call. We're just lucky, you know. Rachel's loud laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. Unable to argue in the hospital room, I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth, holding back my anger. Then, Dan, who seemed to be sleeping, moaned. That's right, Dan was conscious, despite being wrapped in bandages all over. He slightly moved his mouth and said in a low voice, "Rachel."
What?
Rachel leaned down, bringing her ear close to Dan's mouth. After hearing Dan's whisper, Rachel's expression changed.
Got it, I'll handle it,
she said, then turned to Anna and me, suggesting it was time to leave. Walking down the hallway, I pondered over the exchange between Dan and Rachel. It remained a mystery, but I caught a few words: ashes, money. In fact, I inherited gold bars as part of my husband's estate. They're stored in a bank's safety deposit box, and I hadn't told Dan their exact location. Misunderstanding that the gold was in our home safe, Dan might have sneaked out during shopping to steal it while I was away. Unaware of this, Rachel, who had taken separate actions from Anna, might have committed arson. It's a 15-minute drive from the shopping mall to our house. If Rachel planned separate activities with a set meetup time with Anna, it would be possible for her to set the fire. The words Rachel accidentally let slip got the day wrong, and the way she excitedly called me, thinking I was caught in the fire. Plus, her anger towards me in the hospital suggests that I was her target. Dan is the beneficiary of my insurance policy. Even if I survived with burns, a significant amount of sickness benefit would be deposited into Dan's account. Feeling dizzy with shock, my body heated up with anger. Rachel, setting our house on fire for my insurance money and coolly causing Dan severe burns. Above all, using shopping with Anna as a cover for her plot, showed no shred of motherliness. My heart ached seeing Anna walking down, head hung low. Her fun shopping memories probably erased. I glared at Rachel, anger burning through me.
I know you started the fire. I will never forgive you. Just wait, you'll regret this.
Considering Rachel's preparedness in moving their belongings to the hotel beforehand, it was clear she was the arsonist. Furious, but leaving the evidence gathering to the police. My next step was to find a temporary home. Before I could call, the president of my husband's factory called to check on me. After hearing my story, he immediately arranged 3 weeks of paid leave and started the process of moving me into company housing. Rachel was offered the same, but she chose to stay in a hotel with Anna, so I moved into the company housing alone, dragging my carry-on. After contacting the insurance company and buying essentials at a large supermarket, I returned home. Unpacking could wait. I microwaved a pre-made meal and ate. The moment my stomach was full, the tension broke, and exhaustion overwhelmed me. Thankful for the furnished room, I prepared the bed and fell asleep without changing. The next day was spent shopping for necessities, as everything had burned. Having my driver's license, cell phone, and credit cards was a small mercy. Sitting in the shopping center's food court, eating ice cream, I suddenly remembered the words I overheard between Dan and Rachel. On my way back to the company housing, I stopped by the remains of our house and saw Rachel, phone in hand, sifting through the ashes. "Dan, you won't find the safe here. It contains the gold bars, right?" "Oh, Anna's piano lesson time." "Yes, I can come in 4 days." "I'll search again then." Hidden behind the neighbor's fence. Hearing her conversation, I was certain they were indeed searching for the gold bars. She planned to take them without telling me. Smirking, I left, planning a grand welcome for them. 4 days later, Rachel arrived at the charred remains to find neighborhood women gossiping in a circle. "Hello, Camila, Nancy, Lisa." She greeted me in her sweet voice. They all frowned at her turn. Camila, with a grim face, spoke up. "We heard about the fire. You're the arsonist, Rachel?" "What?" "Fooled by your quiet appearance. Planning to burn your husband and claim the insurance money, were you?" "How scary. You knew Dan was there and still set the fire? What's the police doing? Instead of letting criminals roam free, they should lock you up." Faced with their glares, Rachel was flustered. Thanks to always being charming and playing the role of the poor daughter-in-law bullied by her mother-in-law, Rachel had won over the residents, who suddenly turned against her.
"I wasn't trying to kill Dan."
Rachel's voice faded to a whisper, and I chimed in from the shadows. "No, that's not it."
"Kelly?" The real target was me. You set the fire thinking I was in the house.
Rachel froze. But then, she forced a stiff smile.
I don't understand what you're saying. The safe? I moved it to the company housing on the day of the incident.
Her face lit up when I told her.
Are you coming now? I'll come right now.
Rachel's voice was lively, and I smirked. Upon arriving at the company housing, Rachel's attitude changed drastically, rubbing her forehead on the floor.
I'm sorry, Kelly. Actually, Dan, from his sickbed, ordered me to look for the gold bars. He said they could be sold for money, so I was wandering around the ruins, trying to steal them amidst the chaos of the fire. But I didn't commit arson.
Oh, you were looking for this, weren't you? I brought out a silver dial-type safe from the back of the room, and Rachel's eyes sparkled. She watched eagerly as I opened the safe. But all that emerged was a bundle of old letters. Letters my husband gave me before we got married. Good thing I kept them in the safe.
Damn, just trash. So, where are the gold bars?
In a bank safety deposit box. You're going to have to ask a master thief for that. What a waste of time. I'm leaving. As Rachel attempted to stand up, I gently told her. Don't be in such a hurry, the main event is just starting. What main event? Rachel's irritation was apparent as I flipped a large envelope, spilling a vast amount of photos onto the living room table. Rachel gasped and covered her mouth. No wonder, the photos showed her out at night, happily walking through nightlife districts arm in arm with a man, and entering nightclubs with bags from high-end brands. Rachel, I heard you were quite the delinquent back home.
Did you research that too?
Your hometown is where our second factory is located. You were quite the troublemaker, breaking shop signs and factory windows.
That's in the past, I've forgotten about it.
Rachel defiantly lifted her chin. Oh really? But these are recent. I laid out a few photos, tilting my head. Strange. You're a stay-at-home wife, right? Where's the money for these night outs coming from? Maybe Dan's card? Rachel, panicking, pleaded with me.
Please, keep it a secret from Dan. If he finds out I've been using his card and even resorted to loan sharks, he'll definitely divorce me.
So, you set the fire. Tried to burn me along with the house, how terrible. I said mockingly, and Rachel's face turned into a mask of rage, her voice shrill.
Burning you was the quickest way. Either get the insurance money, or at least the sickness allowance if it fails. I mean, burning that old house was better. Living there was making me sick. A rebuild would have made your late husband happy, wouldn't it?
I sneered. My patience is running thin.
That house was rebuilt when Dan was born. After discussing with my husband, we decided on a traditional architecture that suited wedding ceremonies and rooms.
You have no right to comment as a freeloader. Rachel's forehead vein bulged. I'm going to the restroom, don't leave just yet. I insisted and headed to the washroom. As soon as the bathroom door closed, a man's sharp voice rang out.
Hey, what are you doing?
Rushing back to the living room, I found Rachel being restrained by two men in suits. A bottle of pills rolled across the floor. Rachel attempted to drug Kelly's coffee with a sleep inducer. Rachel, you are under arrest for assault.
What? Why are there detectives in the next room?
Of course. Talking to an arsonist alone is too dangerous. I shrugged, and Rachel glared at me with piercing eyes.
Can we take your earlier statement as a confession?
I didn't say I set the fire. Then, let's discuss the other charges at the station.
Other charges?
Rachel looked bewildered, and I smiled at her. The mischief you got up to when you were 18. Remember breaking the factory windows? Oh, that pathetic factory. Our second factory. The broken window damaged an important machine, causing a week's shutdown and significant financial loss. I explained politely. Back then, we couldn't pinpoint the suspect, but thanks to the detectives' inquiries in Rachel's hometown this time, we could identify you as the culprit. I told Rachel, whose expression stiffened. All that over something from 10 years ago? We still claim damages, I said with a full smile.
The total damage and compensation might be around $200,000. $200,000! I can't pay that amount.
Rachel trembled, her face pale, as the detective handcuffed her.
Rachel, you're under arrest for suspicion of assault,
the detective declared as Rachel was led away, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The plan by Dan and his wife unfolded just as I had suspected. They went out to the mall as a family, setting a meet-up time with Anna to split up. Dan's unexpected departure to smoke a cigarette, which was actually to retrieve the gold bars from the house, was unforeseen by Rachel. She, following the plan, doused a stack of newspapers in the parking lot with kerosene and set it on fire. Dan, mistaking the execution day by a week, got caught in the act. Rachel, the perpetrator of the arson, faced charges for attempted murder by arson, drugging my coffee with a sleep inducer for assault, and the vandalism from 10 years ago. Eager for a quick settlement, I agreed on a $100,000 settlement to facilitate Rachel's social rehabilitation. Rachel, burdened with a massive debt of $320,000, including the unauthorized use of Dan's card amounting to $20,000, the settlement of $100,000, and the vandalism charge of $200,000, works tirelessly at our factory from dawn till dusk to pay it off monthly. She seems to be sobbing at work, saying it'll take a lifetime to pay off. Dan, who had conspired with Rachel planning to split my insurance money, was arrested after his discharge. We settled with a $100,000 payment, withdrawing the complaint and having him work at our factory. The harsh working conditions of hot summers and freezing winters must be tough for Dan, who used to switch jobs whenever he disliked something. However, after threatening him with the possibility of jail and the option to sue again, he quieted down. Despite Dan's fury over Rachel's misuse of his card, they lived together in the factory's company housing, arguing but not divorcing to avoid extra living costs. I bought a condo near Anna's elementary school with the fire insurance payout, and we began living together. Dan and Rachel, insisting on seeing Anna, have been pestering us, but since she wants to avoid them for now, their reunion seems to be on hold. The compensation from Rachel for the vandalism goes into the factory's funds. Despite being separated from her parents, Anna shows no sign of loneliness and goes to school cheerfully. When I'm busy, she cooks something, or even does the shopping for me. Living with my adorable granddaughter is more comfortable than I had imagined. I plan to continue overseeing the factory my husband left behind while living with my granddaughter.